it's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, it's Ivy Slater. Welcome and thank you for joining me for this episode of Her Success Story. Today we have a guest. Her name is Jessica Zimmerman, and I have fallen in love with Jessica, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, Jessica Zimmerman is a leading wedding planner and floral designer. She's the founder of Zimmerman Education, a floral design business education company specializing in teaching fellow floral designers the exact systems, sales processes, and tools and techniques necessary to create their own successful 6+ figure floral design company. So Jessica's been in People. She has tutorials. I mean, you're going to absolutely fall in love with her. Few of the reasons I fell in love with Jessica, and I'm going to talk personally. She's a mother of 3, and she has a great story behind that you're really going to want to hear. I'm a flower girl, okay? I love my flowers. So it sparked my interest just on that basis to get to know Jessica. And as I learned what Jessica has mastered is so often when we're in a business that is more aligned with the creative arts, right? It's an art-based, a design. We get stuck in the business piece. And then how do you scale? How do you grow? And Jessica is a damn gutsy woman. And she's a leader among leaders. And whether you're a business owner, whether you're in leadership, she's a woman has great messaging behind it. So Jessica, thanks for coming on today and joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So give the listeners basically, how did you get started in floral design to begin with? Like, give us this backstory a little here.
Sure. The short version is that I always wanted to own my own business. That's really all I cared about. I've always been very aware that time is my greatest commodity. I think that stems from my childhood. My sister passed away when we were little. And so I just grew up with this hyper awareness that life is short. And while I've always considered myself to be smart, driven, focused, I don't know if people who knew me in college would agree. I don't like being told this is when you have to go to class, this is what time you have to be there, this is what you will learn, this is what you have to be tested on. I don't love that. And there are some people that absolutely thrive on that. My husband is one of them. My husband is an incredible student. He likes waking up and knowing he has to be somewhere at a certain time and he's going to be gone at a certain time. And that to me is a nightmare. I would feel like I was in prison. And so I just always knew that I wanted to own my own business. And I didn't care what that was. I would sell knives for all I care. And I almost did. But I basically finally graduated college after 7 years, and I sat on the couch for a year. I said, I'm going to be an event planner, which is funny. The only reason why I said that is because when I graduated with a communication degree, and I received a folder with a sheet of paper, like a Xerox sheet of paper that said, here's professions that you could do with communication. And one of them at the very top was event planning. And I thought, well, I could probably do that. And so I made some business cards, and then I sat on the couch for a year because I didn't know anything about business. I had not spent any time in college learning about business or marketing or how do we actually do this. And so after a year, I decided I need to go learn how to have your own business. How do you do this? And so I went and I worked for a local store here in town, Conway, Arkansas, called The Kitchen Store. And I worked there for 4 years. I learned everything that I could there. And then after 4 years, I was at a Christmas party, and a lady who owned a rental company named Southern Tradition, she said to me, I really want to sell my business, and I think you'd be perfect for it. So I did that. And I bought that, and then they did some flowers on the side. we'll get into the whole journey, I'm sure, but that's basically kind of how I got into this field.
And so you've been doing this for how long now?
I bought a Southern Tradition on January 1st, 2011. So it has been almost 8 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
And you have totally taken the business you bought and blew it up.
Yes.
So share a little bit about, okay, so, and I get it. You know, I was a printer for many years. I got into the printing industry late 80s, early 90s. There really weren't, the women in the industry were the bookkeepers, the receptionists. They weren't salespeople, and they didn't become owners or anything like that. So when you have to blow up what is expected or the norm, I love women who say, let's blow some crap up here. So what did you do?
I laugh when you say that, blew it up, because in the eyes of my town, like, I failed and messed up, because a Southern Tradition was a 20-year-old business, and it was beloved in many ways. It was the place you went here for your event rentals, for your wedding rentals, and everything. And I bought that business, and I went into it thinking that I knew everything that I needed to know about business. I mean, I went into it with almost more, my intentions were good. I wanted it to be successful, obviously. I worked so hard, but I wasn't getting it. And to be honest, I think it was a little bit more at first about ego. Like, I wanted to prove that I could do this, that I could keep this business running, and that I could make it better. There were things that year that I kind of learned the business before I bought it, that I thought, oh, I could do that better, or I want to change the logo. I think it would be better in that location than this one. The website is so out of date, I need to update it. So I went in like a bull in a china shop, and just new logo, new website. I mean, just spent money. Right. And I've always kind of come from the place, and I still believe this to a certain degree, but maybe not as aggressive as I was at the beginning, that you do have to spend some money to make money. And I just really thought I had the best of intentions, the purest of intentions. I believed with all my heart and soul that the decisions I was making was for the best, that this was going to come back to me. I thought it would come back to me within a couple months. I mean, I didn't know anything about, well, how much should I be spending? Well, maybe I shouldn't do all of this at first. I should just update the website, and then next year I hire someone to do the logo. You know what I mean?
So you jumped in with not just 2 feet, but any feet around you.
Absolutely.
Right? Everything went in. And then what?
That is me. That is me in life. That is me in life. Anything is, I mean, all in, like almost to an obsession.
So listeners, just so you know, the clicking between Jessica and I from that first moment our conversation started is I have talked about what's very IBS is that go big or go home. So in the past, I put in like a tomato plant in a pot, maybe a cucumber plant, and I had some basil. And, oh, look, I got a tomato. So this year I have 4 raised beds. There was no in between. Jessica, right, said,
100%.
Okay, so, right? So we are in really alignment here, and there's a clear synergy. And why we clicked. And just on the teaching aside, know the people you surround yourself with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something that is interesting, is because there aren't a lot of people that I relate to, I would say, like in my town, that are entrepreneurs, that are, so that it was also lonely, but I really kind of gave an excuse to that and just said, well, the first 5 years of building a business are the hardest. You either succeed or you don't succeed. So it's okay if I don't have any friends or talk to anyone or do anything except business for these first 5 years. That's just how it is if you want. And so I was here, and I was working. When I say 18-hour days, I'm not exaggerating. I was here all the time. I didn't know how to delegate tasks well for myself. I knew how to give people things that I knew employees did, like sweep here or as far as like having a storefront, which is what a rental business is. You have a storefront of all of the items, and then you have a warehouse of the backstock. And you have to load up these vehicles and do all of this. It was so much work. And then I was, I have a building in downtown. People would come in, they would ask me, well, which antique store do you recommend? And what do you have a bathroom I can use? These were the things. And I realized the majority of my day where the doors are open is not, I'm not making money. Like I'm not doing my business.
Right. There's no business going on.
Right. There's no business. People just either need to ask me a question or they want something from me. That's what it is. And so I had to stay late.
Yes. How did you reformat this whole thing?
Yeah, I had to stay late. So that's why I was there for 18 hours a day. And then what happened was I had my daughter, and she was the best thing that ever happened to me. And the whole reason why I went into owning my own business is I really wanted to be able to go to dance recitals and soccer games, my kids. I wanted to be able to take them to school, pick them up from school, and not have to ask anybody permission to do this. I'm also obsessed with traveling, and 2 weeks out of the year just seemed like near enough. And so for me, I thought, how am I ever going to get there if I'm already working like 18-hour days? She's going to be going to school soon, and I've got to figure this out. And my goal at that point, this was 2014. This was 5 years ago. I said, in 5 years, she is going to be finishing up with kindergarten, and I want to be in a place where I can spend summer with her. And she will be done with kindergarten in 2 weeks, and this will be the first year I'm taking full summer off to be with her. And it's been quite a journey to get there, but it is so possible.
So what did you start shifting and changing? I'll always say, like, we start looking at things from all of a sudden, and this is how we do this all the time. This is how this is how it's supposed to be done. And you're willing to say, okay, forget how everything's supposed to be done. This is the way I want to live my life. I'm going to start, and you have recreated. And in your recreation, I'll get this straight, in your recreation, been more successful than you ever were. How did this happen?
So I think it starts and ends with you nailed it. You have to be really honest with yourself, and you have to say, what is it that I really, 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 really want? Like, what in this life do I want? And what happened for me, the trigger for me was my mom was helping with my daughter. I came home one day and I reached for my daughter, and she did not want me. And she was still a baby. She was 6, maybe 7 months old. And I realized, of course she doesn't want me. She doesn't. My mom's the one with her all day. Like, of course she doesn't want me. And so that really kind of snapped in me to go, okay, the whole reason why you did this business is so that you have this time, you have none of it, and you've got to figure that out. And so when I took a moment and I really wrote down, and I'm a big believer in this, I think especially people who are entrepreneurs or who are idea people, you have to download that. Like, you have to get that out of your brain, whether you have a Google Doc or whether you have a notepad, whatever. And I just took a piece of paper and I wrote down what's working, what isn't working, what do I wish I never had to do again, where if money weren't an issue and no one was depending on me for anything, how would I spend my days? And because, how we spend our days, ultimately, that's how we spend our life. And so I think looking at that sheet of paper, it became very, very clear to me. I don't want to have a storefront that's open from 9 to 5. I do not want to load people's cars with huge tables and chairs. I do not want to have a big team of people. I don't want that I'm having to physically be around and manage. I want to be able to come in and do my work that I need to get done, and then I can have maybe an appointment with somebody, something. So that is when it dawned on me after doing that, and also after looking at the numbers And this is something else that so many women that I've talked to, they don't have a clue. They don't even begin to know. If you ask them right now, where are you on your 2019 sales goal? They go, what are you talking about? Where I can tell you exactly where.
Hold on. I have to get up off the floor because this always breaks my heart.
Okay, go.
Okay. Now, I've talked about for years, numbers tell us a story.
They do.
But are we willing to read the book?
Mm-hmm.
And, these books are so enriching.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives us such insight and gives us the ability to do and build and give back to our daughters and our sons. And if we
100%.
don't know the numbers, we can't decide to fly my son and his girlfriend home from the West Coast for a 3-day weekend at an extraordinary amount of money because it's a last minute surprise, right?
Right.
And I could say this on air because we pre-record these, ladies and gentlemen, right? and so this for surprise. But I can't make that decision because if I don't have the information, or
Absolutely.
if I'm just winging it, we get ourselves in trouble.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a number of examples of that. I mean, I was somewhere last summer and there was a fundraiser for something. They were trying to raise, I think it was $5,000 for something. It was a very good cause, a new kitchen, something for a homeless shelter. And I knew in my head that I could just write that check for them. But if I didn't know my numbers every month, I would have probably just said, oh, I don't know how much I can donate or whatever. And it's so freeing to know what your numbers are. You do have to look in the mirror. It's hard the first time, but once you know it, you have so much freedom. You have so much more, I believe, white space in your life, which is the space where we want to have fun and enjoy and be with the people that we want to be with. And that to me is what life's all about.
So tell me a little bit about, so you're a mom of 3 now.
Yes.
And how old are the kids?
Stella is 5 and I have twin boys, Perry and Zeke, who are 3.
You have a pretty damn active household.
Yes, life is very full.
So how are you keeping all the ducks in a row, the balls in the air? So as working moms,
yes.
How are you approaching this?
Well, for me, it always goes back to, and this is why I think it's so important to write down what you want. And it's okay if it changes year after year. I do this once a year. I write down, and I have to look at my life 1 year ahead. I can't say in 5 years and 10 years and 20 years, that's too much for me. I have to be able to say this year, where do I want to live? What do I want to do? All of these things. So for me, I have some non-negotiables. Non-negotiable for me is that if I'm in town, I'm not out of town on a speaking engagement. If I'm in town, I am taking them to school. I'm picking them up from school. If they're sick, I am the one picking them up and snuggling them in bed, trying to get them better. Those are my priorities. Those are my non-negotiables because once again, I know very clearly how short life is. And I don't ever want to be on my deathbed and regret that I picked work over them. And so for me, being able to identify those non-negotiables, anything that comes to my plate, I am able to very clearly give a yes or a no based on the non-negotiables. Very simple for me. I'm not saying that it's an easy thing. You have to train yourself. You have to shift your mindset, but it is simple.
I love it. So you say you're traveling.
Yes.
You have completely taken this business in a very unexpected direction.
Boy, have we. Yeah.
So, one of the things you were talking to me is like, hey, I had an amazing year last year, and the heart of my business last year, or heart of my business the last few years have been around the bloom piece, right? The flowers.
Yes.
Around the event flowers. So we're no longer renting plates and tables and chairs and making sure they're washed and cleaned and doing that lugging, right? We are now you had come to the point, and I just kind of want to keep the listeners up to date, where
Yes.
you did these amazing, beautiful weddings and other things that you did sick looking flower arrangements when you guys look online and follow Jessica.
Thank you.
And then you're like, okay, what's next? And why was there a next?
Sure. So in 2014, that's when I decided to shut down a Southern tradition and rebrand my business. I called it Zimmerman, and I just started doing by appointment only. And what I did during that time is, because I had looked at my numbers, I knew that I could get so much more work done. Maybe I wasn't bringing in 30 grand a month, maybe it was just 10, but my profit might be 6 grand versus $60 in the hole. You know what I mean? And so that was very freeing to know that. And then what I started to do is be really clear on, who do I enjoy working with? Who do I not? What did I like about that appointment? What did I not? And whatever I didn't like, I really took ownership and said, how can I make sure that doesn't happen again? And I really began to hone a craft. And it's really interesting because I am not a naturally talented floral.
So you really let the numbers drive you.
Yes, and I just became obsessed with business. I became obsessed with how can I make this the most efficient business as possible? And for me at that point, at the end of 2014, my biggest goal was, wouldn't it be amazing if I could handpick 4 clients a year, and those 4 clients would pay for the whole year? That would give me 48 weekends with my family, and only 4 that I had to be away from them. Is what was so frustrating to me, was that I was working all the time and all of these weekends. It was the opposite of why I started this. And so for me, being able to shift that was just such an eye-opening experience. And then in 2016, because I had done so much research and really put the work into, how do I attract this ideal client? And it was no longer about, and this is, you touched on this a second ago, and oh my gosh, if there is one thing that I wish I could just scream from the rooftops to women, it would be this. What I did was I stopped looking at what anyone else was doing around me. And I got focused, and I got driven on doing what was best for me. Now, there was a little incentive with that because my husband got really, really sick. It was about 6 weeks after boys were born. So I had a little girl who was not quite 2, and I had 6-week-old twin boys. And that whole year, my husband was in and out of the hospital. And it became very clear to me that I had to turn this, kind of hobby that I would say it was up until this point, into a business, and I had to do it practically overnight. So that's when I became just really obsessed with the business side. And I very quickly, after really studying successful people, learned what to do. And I attracted my first 6-figure client. And after I did that, I just thought, I want to remember this story. I want to remember it. And so I decided to write it down. And then I decided to see if anyone else would be interested in it. Now, this is funny. This was 2 years ago. I had less than 3,000 followers on Instagram.
Wait, hold on. You had less than what?
I had less than 3,000 followers on Instagram. I had 0 people on a newsletter list. I didn't even know what a newsletter list was 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I thought, well, I want to see if anybody would be interested in this. So I wrote it, and I went on my Instagram account, and I said, hey, I'm going to do 8 weeks of free floral classes leading up to this launch date. I mean, when I look back at it, it's hysterical that this actually worked. And I started to build a list. When I did that little launch, there were 700 people on my list. I sold, I think, 43. At that time, I called it a business memoir. I didn't know to call it a course or anything. And I sold 43. And that was the only time I intended to share it. I went back to doing weddings and everything. And then I started to get emails from people who read it, and they were the most amazing testimonies, and just saying, you've got to continue to share this. I want to learn more from you. You really shared it all. I'm so appreciative. And that is what said, okay, because at this point, I was honestly too kind of getting tired of weddings. I've always felt like there are people out there who are meant to do this, who just, oh my gosh, they would just crumble up and die if they were told they could never touch a flower again. I would be just, you know what I mean? Like, I would be just fine. For me, there are people who are so from their core able to produce a wedding and come up with these design ideas. I've honed a craft for it, but it's not my passion. And I was starting to really question, what am I doing? This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. Am I going to be meeting with brides and moms? And are we going to be talking about color palettes? And like, is that what I'm going to be doing? And when I started to get these emails and these testimonies back from these women, I started to realize, oh, okay, I had to go through that process. I had to almost fail. I had to almost file bankruptcy in order to figure it out, turn it around, because I will actually teach this, and I'll teach it honestly, and it will be tough, and it will be what people need to hear, but I will actually do it.
So in the actually doing of it, and I love the way you're putting it, in the actual doing of it, which is, it's sometimes the hardest step, because it takes an enormous amount of guts to go from thinking about something to realizing you want to change something to actually taking that jump in and doing it. What have you seen? What is the result of this that you see in your life, your business?
It's funny because I think that most people, they spend so much of their life in the in-between, in this like, okay, I'll open that door or I'll close this door only if I could see the one in front of me just opened a little bit. I just want to make sure it's okay. Like, I want to make sure I can go there. And before I close this door completely, that's not how life works. Sometimes we just have to trust our gut, trust our instinct, and try something. I mean, at this point, there were several educators, kind of in the industry, and I was the smallest fish. I mean, like I said, I had less than 3,000 Instagram followers. There was no reason for anyone to take me seriously. And I think I could have gotten so bogged down on, people are going to be like, what is she thinking? Who does she think she is? What does she have? She hasn't even been in business that long. I mean, I could have let those thoughts happen, but I just believed that I was supposed to do this. I just felt that. And so I got really, really precise for the first time on the weddings that I would pick. Even up until then, I was still at a point where, okay, I'll do that. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. And for the first time, I was like, no, unless it's budget and it's the state, I'm not doing it, or whatever. And last year in 2018, I actually did 4 weddings that brought in $500,000 and more than paid for my business, for my building, for my 6-figure salary that I bring home. It more than did that. And 4 years ago, I couldn't have even dreamed that big. I thought maybe one day, but I don't think I ever thought you'll get there that quickly. And so for me, because I didn't really care about continuing to do weddings more than I cared about teaching other people how to not live such a frazzled life like I had lived.
So today your business looks different. Tell me about it.
So today, I come into work. I wake up. I take my kids to school. I work from 8 to 2. I work out from 2 to 5, and then I pick up my kids around 3. And so my kids barely know I work, because when they're home, I'm home. I barely have to work a weekend ever. I get my work done when I'm at the studio while they're at school. Like I said, I'm taking the summer off to be with them. So I have just kind of become a master in efficiency and productivity and how to really do that so that you can afford time with your loved one, like I'm doing this summer and doing afternoons. So I have really focused on my education classes and my courses. You know, we have a lot of that, and I'm just loving how much it's helping us.
And you're making an amazing impact in a place that's in a space that's so important.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
So how can our listeners know more, be in touch, follow you? So first of all, before we even go there, tell me today your Instagram followers. You said you started with a few thousand?
I think I started with less than 3,000. And now I have 12,500. And my newsletter list went from 0 to there's over 50,000 in less than 2 years.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
So that's when I talk about what's possible, and
Yes.
Possibility is the result of taking action.
Yeah, and if I can go from nearly being bankrupt, growing a 7-figure company in 7 years in a small town in Arkansas, I mean, this really is just about not letting people get in your way and just not worrying about what other people think and just staying focused on your own goals.
Love it. So Jessica, how can our listeners follow you, know more about you, get some insight and info?
Absolutely. So my Instagram is at Jessica Zimmerman _. You can go to ZimmermanEvents.com, and that's where you'll see my wedding work, my education site, all those good things. And then if you want to, I have put together a wonderful PDF that is my top productivity tips. And you can just text "her success," all one word, to 44222, and I will send that your way.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. So appreciate you taking your time. And just so the listeners know, this was recorded during Jessica's considered work hours. That does not interfere with her family.
Yes.
We are 2 peas in a pod. It's truly know what you want and the why you want it, and then build the business that support your life. And I think Jessica and I are going to be visiting again. So
I think we will too.
Absolutely. Leave us a note. Let us know what else you want to hear. Give us some feedback. And of course, subscribe. So Her Success Story comes in your inbox every Monday morning. See you soon.
To shine. Don't need your approval anymore, 'cause I've got mine.